Young people do not know their true worth or purpose. So many never know what it is to have an authentic relationship with someone. So many are starving for hope, peace, joy, and love.
Here's Focus saying, no, the Lord is inviting you out of that isolation into life. And it shouldn't surprise us that young people are jumping out of the seats to be a part of this, that they're experiencing joy in a way they've never experienced because they know they're not alone, they're loved. So exactly as you say, this is the kind of love that invites us out of ourselves and then invites us to give ourselves.
I think part of the Christian life is moving from encounter to encounter. There have been great moments in my life. I can think of a number, but as a 20-year-old, reading the scriptures, as maybe for the first time as a young adult, encountering the person of Jesus Christ in the pages of the Gospels. And at one point in Luke chapter 6, verse 46, as I was reading, I heard Jesus say in my imagination, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I say? Now, Luke chapter 6, verse 46 actually says that, but what I heard in my imagination was, Curtis, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do what I say? And it was as I'd been called out by the living God. I had been raised a Catholic. I loved Jesus. I wasn't following him, and I didn't know how to follow him. And so that set off really a searching for the next several weeks that led to a recommitment to Christ. I can think of another time in front of the Blessed Sacrament a few years later where God was calling me back to a deep Catholic faith, back to the sacraments. I had a great friendship with Scott Hahn, who was a mentor of mine. In fact, when I first met Scott, my wife, we were newly married, said, you know, my husband feels that he's been called by God to launch a Catholic campus crusade for Christ. So we had the concept even before I was married to my wife. But a couple years after I'd been studying with Scott, when we were ready to launch, we just were together in prayer and said, you know, what do we think? And Scott just said, how about Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students? And it stuck, and so it's been a great title, and we've been very blessed by it.
Focus established its pilot program in January of 1998 at the Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. Curtis Martin met with Pope John Paul II in 1998 and shared the vision of Focus with him.
I came to know Focus 20 years ago when Curtis Martin came through Rapid City, South Dakota, where I was the bishop on his way to Denver for World Youth Day with Pope John Paul II. And when I met Curtis and heard about his dream, I was attracted right away because I thought the work with young adults on the college campuses was extraordinarily important for the new evangelization. But also I thought his way of approaching it would be successful.
At the invitation of Archbishop Charles J. Chaput, a Focus program was established in 1998.
I've been associated with Focus since my time as auxiliary bishop in Denver, Colorado. I've been with Focus off and on for a number of years, and the University of Nebraska, where I am now, in Lincoln, was the third university that Focus came to when they first got started. So I've been able to see Focus grow over the years, and they just, like you say, spiritual multiplication, they continue to grow exponentially each year.
Focus missionaries encounter God in an intimate relationship through daily prayer, the sacraments, and the scriptures. By building genuine friendships, Focus missionaries meet students on a deeper level. Focus missionaries teach students how to share the gospel, who in turn teach other students how to pass it on.
I'd say there's a number of reasons that we picked the university as the key place. First of all, you're catching people at the pivotal time in their life. You can reach second graders and 8-year-olds, and you need to, but it's hard to reach them. And if you did, you'd have to wait a long time for them to have an impact. And you could go into hospitals and you could reach people in their 80s and 90s, and we need to. But if you had an impact, if God changed their life, they wouldn't have a long time to help. When you reach somebody who is 20 or 22 or 23, they have the remainder of their adult life to be able to serve Christ, and they can do it right away. And so we really think it's the most pivotal, leveraged time in all of the culture to be able to reach people. But we want to reach everybody. And so if you wanted to renew schools for young children, well, you would want to go and renew university students who would become the next generation of teachers. If you want to renew family life, The mothers and fathers will be on college campuses and marry and then have children. If you wanted to renew the priesthood, well, the place to go to renew the priesthood is to go to young men who are in college, have them experience Christ, and they can enter the seminary right away. So every other area in the culture is impacted best when we start with the university. That's why we chose it as the most leveraged place. But today, 20 years into it, we're happy to say we're following our alumni into other apostolates, into parishes, into family life, and it's amazing to see this ability to love just a few deeply and impart both faithfulness and fruitfulness is bearing fruit now all over the church.
Key to the discipleship model that they use is personal relationship and friendship, sharing the joy of the gospel one-on-one through the scriptures and personal witness. And Focus has really used that model to great success.
Our quality of relationship with God is our salvation. Our quality of relationship with others is the way we manifest that, by loving them but also evangelizing them. And so what Focus has done is try to imitate the method modeled by the Master of loving a few people very, very deeply and imparting not just faithfulness, but also fruitfulness. So they would go and do the same.
Focus missionaries encounter students in friendship, inviting them into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Through Bible studies, outreach events, mission trips, and one-on-one discipleship. Focus missionaries inspire and build up students in the faith.
I would say that the life of a Focus missionary consists of 3 keys. The keys to evangelization, which is divine intimacy, authentic friendship, and a clear vision and conviction for spiritual multiplication. And that's what we Focus missionaries really strive to live out. If we are truly united to Jesus, truly united to our Lord, growing with Him in that relationship, in that intimate relationship with Him, and also going out and meeting wonderful students, wonderful people in our lives, and growing in true friendships with them. Most of the time, these students don't know what a true friendship looks like. But being able to grow in that relationship with them and helping them to come to know Jesus, but then also equipping them so that they can do that for other students in spiritual multiplication is awesome. That's what Focus missionaries do.
The big turning point for me deciding to be a Focus missionary after college was actually my experience as student body president. I was really in the business world. We had the opportunity to be in control of a lot of money and a lot of different assets, and we had a lot of responsibility. We advocated at the state capitol, and so I got to see what it was like in the business world and what it was like in the so-called real world. And I realized that all of that responsibility and power and influence was meaningless if God wasn't present in it. And that was the point for me where I realized I should be discerning being a missionary.
St. John Paul is great. And when he said to his friends he was going to go to the seminary, his friends told him that he was nuts. JP2, you're a great actor, writer. You're going to waste your talents, is what they were saying. And I just remember from that moment on, I was like, I think I need to be a missionary. I had all these talents and accolades, but I was like, I was being called, And 2 other things that kind of led to me finally saying yes to being a Focus missionary was my confirmation saint. My confirmation saint is St. Andrew, and I'd never really known a whole lot about him, but the day I had to make the answer, I'd been given an offer from Focus, and I was stalling as much as I could. But I remember being at Mass, and it was the Feast of St. Andrew. And it was the first moment that I realized how much of a missionary St. Andrew was.
In the first few weeks of the school year, Focus missionaries will initially spend time on campus meeting students, helping with resident hall move-ins, eating in the diner halls, having coffee in the student union, attending campus sporting events, and more. Throughout the remainder of the year, the missionaries continue to engage in outreach activities on campus.
One of the best things that one of the Focus missionaries I worked with through most of college told me is that having a friendship with God is like having any other friendship. You have to be present and continue to show up and be there in order for that relationship to grow. And so don't worry about having the right words or saying the perfect thing or knowing the perfect prayers or the perfect stance. Just get there and be in front of God. because he is looking on you so lovingly, and he's gazing into your heart, and he wants you to be with him. And being there and being in front of him is enough. You can be there and just be in front of Jesus, and he'll do the rest. I mean, his grace is perfect.
God is love, and we share his love by experiencing first his love for us and then sharing his love for others. And so that, again, that one-to-one relationship through the study of the scriptures, through Eucharistic adoration, through friendship. This is the other thing that's the key to focused missionary work on college campuses, is they make friends first, not so that they can disciple somebody, not so they can convert them, but authentic, true friendship. So friendship is a key to the success of Focus. And one friend building on another friend and another friend, the spiritual multiplication happens.
Focus is a gift to me on so many levels, as it is to so many people. And what you see is just the grace of God in abundance, and it lifts everybody's spirit. It encourages people for mission. And look, we're in a genuine spiritual battle. That's the reality we're in. And it's exciting to think of the kind of potency and power that comes out of that many people going to confession, committing their lives to Christ, going to adoration, on their knees for hours, singing in honor of our Lord.
One of the focus, pun intended, of these Focus conferences is Eucharistic adoration. When we have Eucharistic adoration, the students come before the Eucharistic face of Jesus, open their hearts, and receive the love that Jesus pours out to us in the Holy Eucharist, his body, blood, soul, and divinity. And they receive that love, and they then bring that love out to everybody they meet. And as people sort of come into the orbit of that love, and that radiates the love of Christ, then more people want more, and it just begins to grow.
We keep saying Jesus is Lord. You go to a Focus conference, you see what it looks like when people really believe he's Lord and act that way.
Focus hosts several national conferences, alternating its Seek and SLS conferences. Seek, its biggest event, is an exciting and empowering 5 days in which students are invited to ask the big questions about life, love, and how to discover true happiness.
Authentic faith presumes that you have a spiritual posture before God that recognizes that you're a creature and God is a being outside of you that you're going to come to know and conform your life to. That's real faith.
We're not perfect. We're sinners, amen? We're sinners. That's one of the things I love about being Catholic. Are you kidding me? We get together at church not to proclaim how awesome we are. We get together and the first stinking thing we do is announce to the whole church that we're sinners.
God knows you better than you know yourself, which means God knows why you're on this planet. He knows what makes you tick. He knows what makes you happy. He knows when you've been good or bad fruit, so be good for goodness sake. God knows you better than you know yourself.
We're not called to a life of comfort. We're called to a life of greatness. And greatness requires action.
Seek 2017 had more than 13,000 attendees who joined together for prayer, fellowship, engaging talks, inspiring entertainment, and a chance to encounter Christ in a life-changing way. Focus expects thousands of attendees at Seek 2019 in Indianapolis, January 3rd through the 7th, 2019. Registration is open at www.seek2019.com.
At the Seek conference, I really had a profound encounter with Christ in adoration, and I got the opportunity to ask him how he saw me, and it was one of the most amazing moments of my life because I realized for the first time that Jesus wanted a very deep and personal connection with me and a relationship with me that I didn't realize he was pursuing. And after that, my world just kind of turned upside down. And I got back to campus and I was so on fire and I didn't really know what was next, but I knew I wanted to do something, I had to do something. So I was lucky to be living in my sorority house at that time, and I decided I was gonna start a Bible study, which was really exciting because there hadn't been a Bible study in my sorority house, and I figured even if one girl came, that would be enough. So I was leading this Bible study, and slowly but surely, some women came. Sometimes there was, 0 people that week, but it was cool to be bringing this faith that I had found a love for to my sisters. And then that next year, I was elected to be student body president of my university, which was really exciting because I got the opportunity to lead campus, but also bring my faith to members of my cabinet and other members of the student community. And it was cool how Jesus was calling me into deeper relationship with him through this opportunity of leadership on campus. And now I'm going into my senior year, and I think what's really been beautiful about Focus and being involved in Focus is that this community has not only strengthened me in my faith, but helped me be valiant enough to know that God's behind me and I can go out and share them with members of my sorority or with the campus that I was president of, or just with students in my class. And Focus has really just given me that strength and that community to do that.
Transparency that has joy and not sorrow, not, as Pope Francis says, looking like you just came from a funeral, not acting as though the faith is just a burden, but that it's actually freedom. I think young people are looking for these things, and what they see when they encounter a Focus missionary is they've got something I want, and I'm willing to listen to them, to him or her, about why are you like that? As it says in 1 Peter, to give an account of the hope that's in you. Why are you like that? So they're witnesses. They're not just preaching at people. They're not judging people. They're not sort of aggressively going at them. They're just saying, there's a better way. There's a better way. I think it's what people saw when they saw the Lord, when they see the saints, when they saw our mother, they just see joy. And Focus is testimony to that great insight of Pope Francis that we need the joy of the gospel. And that's the key to the new evangelization.
Return, give off to him again. He's hit by Meredith and dropped. No gain. Cameron Meredith fired right through there and knocked him down.
Realizing the unique needs and challenges student athletes face, Focus launched Varsity Catholic in 2007. Varsity Catholic desires to provide a comprehensive development of an athlete's personal and spiritual life during college.
Being a college athlete and Division I athlete, there's so many pressures to excel on the court and in every aspect of life. And sometimes that pressure is just so overwhelming. When I feel that I do have pressure on me, I know that I can turn to the Lord and everything's gonna be okay. And even though we're extremely busy as college athletes, make time for him, whether that's during the day, between classes, or before a game. He wants to be with you, and he's given us so many gifts to be able to be where we're at.
See, 2013 was huge for me. The thing that really caught my eye at first was how happy everyone was to be at that conference and how joyful the people were there. And it was a joy that I didn't really ever see with anybody else in football or anything like that. And it all started listening to the talk with Matthew Kelly. He preached about peace, and he said that you don't long for happiness, you long for peace. And it really hit my heart because that's what I was longing for, was that peace. And I wanted to be at peace with my life, and I wanted to know that if I died today, that I lived my life in the way that I was proud of, and that I would be at peace with the way I lived my life.
I started seeing that what they were talking about in Bible study was things I could relate to my life, and okay, I'm doing this, and this is why I'm unhappy. And they were talking straight to my heart and exactly what I was feeling with being caught up in that athletic world. And once I started to put those together and thought, okay, this is something that definitely I need to look into more, that's when more of the emotional and the real spiritual connection with God came in. As you start increasing your spiritual life, you got to decrease somewhere. And for me, it was the social life. And some of the guys in the locker room look at you a little differently. They met you and they grew to know you as that kid who came in freshman year, ready to party and ready to do the whole college experience. And as you start to change, there's some tension there. Guys start looking at you a little differently and kind of wondering what's going on. But at the same time, that's a great platform and a great launching point for me to start sharing, the message that's been given to me.
I'm using the gifts that God has given me, and I'm just going out there every single day and giving it my all, and knowing that I'm playing for him. Yes, I'm playing for myself and my teammates and my university, but ultimately it's him who I'm playing for. A lot of the stresses that I did have prior to games, and they were gone, and I just played without fear.
Once you start giving it up for God and living for God and playing for God, it'll manifest in your play tenfold. It just gives you something even higher to play for than yourself, than your teammates, and your loved ones. And it'll really bring out the best in what you got.
I bring faith into my sport by playing for God when I'm out there, and not playing for myself, but playing for God and for His honor and His glory. And that brings me peace while I'm on the field, knowing that it's not about me, it's about Him. That's what it's all about. You're playing for something more than yourself.
Focus had more than 660 missionaries on 137 campuses. For 2017-2018 academic year,
You know, I'd like to say that the numbers can be deceiving. Are they big numbers or not? Well, I don't know. Millions of people watch a football game on Sunday. And so in some ways they're not big numbers. But what I like about it, what I'm thrilled about, is the quality, because these are relationships that are deep with Christ and with others, and the growth. And so directionally, the numbers are getting much bigger every year.
I think you judge how powerful Focus is by the fruit. It's just bearing amazing fruit. So the vision that Curtis had, and I've been with Focus for a long time now. I wasn't there at the beginning, but I go back a ways with it. I had the privilege of working for Focus for a number of years. And what we've seen, and those of us who've been a part of it for all these years, is tremendous fruit in numbers, just pure growth, but also in sort of spiritual power. Recently, the bishops of the United States had a massive conference, unlike anything they'd done for 100 years, on the 100th anniversary, called the Convocation of Catholic Leaders down in Orlando. And Focus was a key partner in that. They're really a key piece of that. They sent 80 of their missionaries as volunteers to help make it happen. And you could just see the way in which the life they bring, the spirit they bring, gave life to the whole conference. That bishops were commenting on, people who were attending, they thought, who are these young people who are doing these things? And so what you see in Focus is the fruit, not just in the numbers, but in the kind of people who, when they're in an environment, they change the environment. They make a difference. And I think it's a sign of great hope. It's a sign of hope that the Lord's continuing to do great things and continuing to work through these young people who just say yes.
And when you think about the early church, how they started so small with just a few disciples, and they discipled others and those discipled others, you can see how something like this can continue to have an effect and impact, not only on the church in the United States, but it goes beyond now. I've been with people from Africa that are here, from England and Ireland, from Australia. This model can work anywhere. And so this is the great hope that Focus brings to the church. More and more bishops see that this is really the key to evangelizing the young generation, college students and above, the millennials and the iGens. And so this is a great sign of hope and joy for the church.
Focus is a testimony that God's word is still potent, that the gospel is still changing lives, that young people want to know, love, and serve the Lord, and that if they encounter Christ and say yes, the sky's the limit. God has the freedom to do whatever He wants. And so I'm not discouraged. I'm not disheartened by numbers. What I see is life, and I see it in abundance. This is what God has always done.
We don't want to spend a minute with you. We don't want to spend even an hour or 10 hours or 100 hours. We want to spend 1,000 hours. We want to spend years with you, sharing life and walking with you together in pursuit of Christ, and to go out and serve the poor in all the ways that we possibly can. And that fellowship is key. hope is for you, for all the viewers that are with us, to be able to recognize the same is true for you, that you were meant to be amazing. There's a gap between who you are today and who you're supposed to be. When Jesus closed that gap, you become a saint. Every person needs to hear that, and every person should have the opportunity to respond to that.
By building authentic, loving communities on campus, Focus missionaries and students are seeking to cooperate with Christ in changing the world. They share the dream of drawing more and more youth to Christ and building toward the dream of beloved St. John Paul the Great of a new evangelization.
To all of the viewers of Shalom TV throughout the world, I want to encourage you not only to support this amazing media apostolate, but to spread the word to others. We all know how the internet and mass media are polluting the world with the poison of pornography and so much other forms of materialism. This is the source of eternal life, the gospel, and Shalom TV is consecrated to spreading the word of Christ. Thank you.
Shalom World, God's own channel.